So, you're thinking about starting an e-commerce business. You've watched a bunch of YouTube videos, and you're following a bunch of entrepreneurs on every social media platform you can think of. But still, you don't really have a plan on how to start an e-commerce business and how to start it the right way. So, you're in the right place. Today, I will start an e-commerce business from scratch, and I will take you along the journey with me. Hi guys, my name is Clem. Welcome to Making Dollars Make Sense. If this is your first time, welcome and congratulations on taking those first steps to financial freedom. Today, I'll be starting an e-commerce business from scratch and taking you along every critical step of the journey. Now, before we get into the nitty-gritty, let's just get one thing out of the way. There are no guarantees in life, and there's no get-rich-quick scheme that's coming from a off-the-shelf formula. A lot of gurus out there will tell you, these are the top products you need to use. These are the best ways to make money in 2022. And they mean well, and probably if you did some of those things, you have a very good chance of making money. However, that said, what I'm trying to do is to show you step by step how I would approach it if I was starting an e-commerce business. I've had successful businesses before, but what I'd like to do is to show you what I would do if I was starting off today. And I don't know if this is going to be a success or it's not, but as the smart people say, rather learn from other people's mistakes or successes than your own. So like anything in life, in business, it takes work, it takes effort, and everyone's journey is different. But there's some best practice guidelines, and this is what this video is about. It's about showing you guys the way that I believe it should be done. And if that sounds like something that you're interested in finding out today, let's get right to it. So the first step that we've got is to find a problem to solve. There's no point reinventing the wheel. If you're going to discover the next big thing, you would get that idea randomly. Since you clicked on this video, it's pretty obvious that you're actually looking for a problem to solve, or you're looking for a business to start. So therefore, you're not going to probably discover the next version of blockchain technology or a new rare metal. What we need to do is to find an existing problem, ideally one that we actually care about, and then find a unique way to solve it. So for me personally, we had a baby not too long ago. No matter what was going to happen, I was not about to carry a change bag. Right, trendy and quite nice as the bag that my wife got as a change bag, I was not carrying that bag around. It was not going to happen. So that is going to be the problem I'm going to solve. To create a grab and go change bag solution that is non-gender specific but highly functional. And the next step number 2, is to choose a business model. Write down your customer avatar. Who is your customer? What means a lot to them? How do you speak to them? This will answer the question of what is your ideal business model. In my case, my customers will be moms and dads, or other people who know moms and dads and want to buy them a gift or a present. Now, efficiency, safety, functionality will probably rank top of their needs. How do I speak with them? Anyone who has a newborn will know that they spend a hell of a lot of time on their phone Googling, because no matter what happens, no matter how many prenatal classes you go to, having a baby, there's nothing that could ever prepare you for it. So you always be looking for answers and solutions on your phone. So the business model that I will go with is a white label through Shopify. Now, you might be wondering, why not dropshipping? Dropshipping would be a whole lot easier. But for this particular business model, people need to trust what they put their baby on. So white label will allow us to build that brand awareness and gain the trust of the community we're trying to sell to. And functionality, we need a few key things. The product must be waterproof for obvious reasons, comfortable for the baby, have sufficient storage, it must be portable, and it must fit in with an abundance of scenarios where babies will decide that nature's calling. That's the short list of what we need to do. Then we'll go to the third step, which is finding a supplier. Now, there are a lot of platforms out there, and new platforms are coming online every day, but anyone who's researched e-commerce or dropshipping will have heard of Alibaba, AliExpress, DHgate, and those sort of Chinese B2B platforms. Now, there's no sponsored video. I just use what's available to me. There's no point trying to come up with a weird way of doing things. If there's something that works, then, if it's not broke, don't fix it. So what I'll do is we'll switch over to my system over here, and then we're just going to go on to Alibaba. And as you can see, we're on Alibaba right now, and we're just going to quickly change for baby change mat. The key things that we need to keep in mind: minimum order quantities, especially since we want to white label. So therefore, what does that mean? We're going to put our own brand onto the actual product. So we're going to get someone to manufacture it for us, but they're going to put our branding onto it. The materials are very important. because like I said, people are going to put their babies, their newborns on this. So we've got to do the right thing and make sure that they're hypoallergenic and all this fun stuff. And of course, we're trying to keep the cost to a minimum, but without compromising on quality. So I'm just going to have a quick Google and see what we've got over here. So we've got a few things, a couple of interesting pictures. Baby mat diaper, bag, backpack with portable changing pad, travel diaper. Baby mats, skin friendly. Okay, a few interesting ones. Now, this you're probably going to spend quite some time looking at this. Have a look at the pictures because you'll probably be looking to do something similar. I wouldn't recommend using stock videos and images just because unless they're really, really good, you probably want to find a way. Now, you can get inspiration from these as well as designs and stuff, but I typically wouldn't go with the actual ad assets that they've got, just because you don't want it to feel, especially if you're gonna white label it, you want to create that brand trust. So you want it to feel authentic as possible. You don't want your customer to go and Google the product and maybe come across an Alibaba or an AliExpress posting. I'll do this off camera, go through a lot of these suppliers, send a few messages. The key thing that we want to do is we want a supplier who's got a number of good reviews, who's got trade assurance. I think that's quite important. On-time dispatch guarantee and a refund policy. These are the bare minimum things that I would be looking at. And then once we've done that, we will get some samples sent over. And then we will have a look and make sure that the product actually meets our need. Once we've done that, we'll go through how to capture all these costs. So obviously you're going to incur some costs in getting samples. You might get samples from more than one manufacturer. You're probably going to have to pay the shipping to get that product in. So all these costs need to go into how you price your product. So I'll get into more detail around pricing, because most people will do a back of the envelope calculation. And this is very risky because what tends to happen is you forget costs, and then you might think that you're making money, but in the grand scheme of things, as the business is not running, I'm gonna buy these samples out of my own pocket. So the business effectively owes me. So if you're doing it the right way, you probably need a good solution to keep track of all your costs. Personally, I prefer to use Margin5, which is an online profitability pricing application, but more on that later. So moving on to the fourth step, we will design our brand. Now, this is important, especially if you're doing white label, because customers need to trust what you're selling. When I talk to my clients about brand is pretty much, think your storefront. If you had a physical store, it's what people see as they walk towards your store. It's the feel, the type of vibe that you want to sell. Now, there are a lot of professionals who make a living doing branding, so I'll not make light of the skill required to do this well. However, being a startup business, I would recommend either doing the branding on your own, so just thinking about the key things you want to make sure that your brand stands for, or alternatively, you could get a consultant on a platform like Fiverr or Upwork that suits your budget. Now, make sure that your brand or your ideas for your brand align with your market. Then you have to create what we call a customer avatar and the product. The next thing you want to do is to definitely make sure that the domain is available. If the domain is not available, it might make it a bit harder for people to trust. You know, people will trust a product, a car product at suchandsuch.com. Then if you're selling your product on some random website with a random URL, then automatically alarm bells start going off. So ideally, I always recommend to my clients to ensure that they've got the actual domain of the brand and you've got that synergy. Personally, I prefer .com domains just because when most people hear www, your brain automatically thinks the ending of that particular phrase is going to be a .com. However, if you're based in the UK or the US or in Australia where you've got AU, then maybe you want to go with a subdomain like that, or you might go with these other trendy new domains, depending on what sort of a product that you're going with. Then the next step that you want to do is to design a logo. Now, again, you could spend a lot of money getting a professional to do it. Nothing wrong with that, but at the same time, if you're starting a business, the whole point is to make dollars. If it doesn't make dollars, then it doesn't make sense. So I'm going to show you the way that I would do it as a startup, because you want to keep your overhead and startup costs as low as possible so that the business has actually got a chance to grow and you're not bankrolling it or throwing money at the business. I did a video, one of my prior videos, and I'll link it over here, which talks about the mistakes that people make when they're setting up a business. And one of those is throwing money at the problem. So we're definitely not going to do that. Personally, what I'm probably going to do is I'm going to take advantage of one of my favorite platforms, and that's Canva. You might have heard of it. So Canva is a platform that allows you basically to do a lot of your graphic design easily. Now I'm going to show you pretty quickly how I'm going to do that. If we go home, then I'm going to go templates, and then let's go with logos. So that's the first thing that I'm going to do. Now I'm going to go here and then I'm going to Google, right? So I want to do business names for baby products. What I'm going to do is look at, so this is interesting. Shopify has got a baby name generator. So let's look at baby change met, generate names. Baby change met. Yep, no points for that one. That's pretty obvious. Trinity, baby change met salon, change met boards. Some of these generators sometimes come up with good ideas, but what I like to do is to use these generators to give me a general idea of what I want. So a lot of it has got baby. So let's just go baby and have less in there. So baby bin, baby living, baby simple. You want something that's memorable. This baby valley, baby north, baby savvy. It's interesting. Sienna baby, gemstone baby, astro baby, create a baby. So I'm not going to bore you with going through these. What I tend to do with a lot of these is just write down a lot of words that come to mind. The other thing that I like to do when coming up with the brand name is to just go with the alphabet. So start with A, and then I'll just write every word that I can think of that aligns off the top of my head with what I'm trying to do, and then go to B, C, D, etc. So once I've done that, at the moment, what I've decided to go with is Hugbub, because when I think of when my baby was born, everyone's like, how's Bub? I don't know if that's an Australian thing, but you know, everyone refers to the baby as Bub. And then Hug, we're always holding the baby because they're a little infant. So Hug Bub, for me, that just made sense. So the next thing that I did was to search and make sure that the domain is available. And once I've done that, then I will come and start creating. So I'm going to come here over home. And the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go to logos, and we're going to go create a blank logo. Now I'm going to keep this very simple because for what I'm trying to do, it's just going to be a simple font-based logo. So we're going to go over here, which is text. We're going to go edit heading. I'm going to make this a little bit bigger because that's pretty much all that we're designing. And then from there, I'm just going to type in, I'm going to call it Hugbub. Pretty simple. And then we're just going to size this a little bit just so that it fills up the page and we can see what we're doing. Okay, now again, like I was saying, there are a lot of professionals out there who will do branding the right way. I am by no means a branding professional, but for what I need, I think it will suffice. So when I look at this, automatically I'm thinking, you know, it's got to do with babies, moms. I feel like that font is a bit too serious, so I'm just gonna go in here and have a look at some fonts. I'm just gonna select some fonts. Sometimes all you gotta do is actually just pick them at random and you'll find one that works. Those stylized sorts of fonts, they look great when you look at them, but it's gotta be something that's easy to read. And again, I'm thinking we're gonna white label, so we're gonna put this logo on the actual product. So you want it to kind of work. So I actually quite like how simple this is. Articulate, very nice. So I'm just gonna go that and then increase the size a little bit, but obviously it being just a word might be a little bit boring, so we're going to try and add a little bit of sauce and spice to it. So come over here into elements, and I'm thinking let's search for a smiley face because it's a baby and we like happy babies. And again, it all goes to that emotion that you're trying to elicit with the brand. You want someone to look at it and be happy. So take that, thinking just to make it pretty clean. That's a little bit too big, make that a bit smaller. It's too small, put that, perfect. There you go, Hugbub. We got a little smiley face, and that kind of looks like a happy baby. So we're trying to create something that appeals to the emotion that the parents have. And you can see pretty much in a couple of minutes, I've created what I think is a pretty good looking brand. I'm going to ship this off to the manufacturer and then get some samples done. So that is the fifth step. Test your product and get assets for your store. I can't overemphasize this enough. if we weren't going to go with a product like babies or baby things that I believe you need to do quite some quality control, you're drop shipping, you might get away with not getting samples, but I personally think if you're serious about building that business and it's not about just having a quick flip store where you're going to get some products, do some viral TikTok advertising, get a couple of sales, and then bin the entire business in a couple of weeks. If you actually want this to be something that's going to grow and have a chance to have some longevity, then I would recommend getting those samples and get the samples done the way you want them done. And then test your product and make sure that it actually is something that you're happy to put your name to. So you need to understand your product inside out, and you need to be your first customer, and be honest with yourself about the quality of the product, what you like about it, what you don't like about it. Actually write down the good things about it and the bad things about it so that you can sort of start thinking about any objections you might get from your customers, if any, and also just prepare you for how much you're going to put into this business, because sometimes you get a sample and you'll be like, you know what, I actually can't make this work. Then you go back a couple of steps and try and source another manufacturer or alternatively a product. Then once you've got that sample, you're going to find a few photos, and then the sixth step that we've got is you create your store. Now, to create the store, like I said, I'm thinking to use Shopify because I need something that looks great, but at the same time that people will be able to identify as a trustworthy store. So we're just going to go to Shopify. Let's see how we go. Let's just go Google Shopify over here. And then we're going to create a brand. All right, this brings us to the seventh step. So once you've talked to your suppliers and you're happy with the quality that they're providing, you then go and you order your first batch of the product. Now, I can't overemphasize the value of getting an independent inspection to quality control at source. So again, if you do your Googles, you will find a myriad of suppliers. Find an independent person, ideally in the same city or location of the actual manufacturer is producing a product for you, and then get a contract with that person to actually go to the factory or warehouse before they actually ship the material. And you tell them what to look out for, because remember, you've gotten that sample, right? So you want to look for, if in my case, I asked them to look for the padding, make sure that the stitching looks right, make sure that simple things like that, the logo is set right and it's actually positioned correctly. And obviously, if you're ordering quantities, I ordered 300, they're not going to inspect 300 products for you, right? That's going to be a heck of a lot of money. It's not worth it. With business, you got to apply an 80-20 and figure out, is the juice worth the squeeze? So what I told my inspector was just to random sample. So open a few samples from a number of boxes just randomly, and then measure those for those things. Now, and in accounting, we do that during audits. We don't audit every single account. We find a sample and then we deep dive into those. And the assumption is, if you pick the samples randomly and the distribution was spread across the entire data set, then all those pass the audit. Technically, you can assume that the rest of it is okay. All right, so once you've done all of that, again, I can't overemphasize the need to ensure that you capture all your costs. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to come here into Marginfy, use the Making Dollars Make Sense account. And then on Marginfy, what we will do is we will set up a business. So here we're going to rename the business to Hugbub. And then how much do I want to make in the year? Let's call this $10,000. And then we're going to create a product. So we're going to add a product. And this is going to be the baby change mat. Now the unit cost, our landed cost is about $457. Sorry, $457. We've got 300 quantity, and we're going to assume that we're going to sell them up because that's what we want to do. Now the target price is, let's call it $49.99. So this talks to, again, psychological pricing, where you want to call it 50 because then it's the 5 before it. Might be a barrier to purchase, so you score 1 cent less. Obviously, over 300, you're going to be 300 cents less, which is $3 compared to selling it at $50, but it's neither here nor there. It just sounds a bit better. So, gonna update that. Then here, I'm gonna come over here and enter my overhead costs. So, the first cost that we had, startup costs, would have been samples. So only did that once, and that's February, and I spent about $120 on samples. So that includes getting them shipped here. Then the next thing that we did is, we shall call that startup cost. Now in my case, I did the logo myself, so nothing major over there. But the other thing that I did have to do is to get an independent inspector, and again, it's a yearly cost. I'm just going to do that once. That was in February, and then we actually paid them $250 to do that for us. And the next thing that we had was we purchased again with, and we're going to put this in packaging cost. We got some biodegradable sleeves. And again, we only bought these once, so we're gonna go yearly. February, and they cost us $120 for a pack of 500. And then we also got, in packaging costs, we got these little labels. Again, only once a year. Not gonna buy those again. February. These actually only cost us $56, so that was pretty cool. Then the next thing that we've actually incurred is I'm gonna do the import cost, because I just paid for the shipping once and for all. So if I come, let's have a look. Here we go. Shipping. Alrighty. So go back to Marginify. It cost us 650 Australian. So sorry, this is shipping inwards, yearly, February, 650. Cool. So now I've got the major costs over there. The other thing that I'm going to have guaranteed is, I'm going to do the photography myself. So it's pretty much all the costs I'm going to have. So if I come here to annual metrics, it's going to calculate the break even. At the moment, desired annual profit is $1. I bought one product. I bought it for $4.57. I need to sell it for $8.56 to break even. So obviously we're not here to just break even. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to change the desired annual profit. And let's say I would like to make, call it $5,000. Over the year, update business, come back to annual release. So break even is still $8.56. Target sell price is $49. If I sell it at $49.99, and it cost me $1,371 to actually buy the products, then we are going to spend $1,196 on overheads. We'll make $12,000 if we sell that. So that sounds pretty healthy. Relatively happy with that. If you look at the dashboard, looking really good. So with the desired profit of $5,000, we'll have about $25 in cost. The reason I've got the desired at $5,000 is I just want to see a bit of the range there and see how we go. And it looks like a pretty healthy business. We've got one product over there. We'll be spending a little bit of overhead there. So if you want to go through details on how to actually work through Marginify, understand your financial metrics and how to price your products, there'll be a video about that coming up in the series. So that's the 8th step, which is what we need to do. Again, a lot of people do back of the envelope calculations or use a spreadsheet to do the pricing. I've had clients that I consult for who make 6 figures in revenue, but they post under $10,000 in net profit. So I cannot overemphasize the need to have accurate pricing, which is what we provide as a solution with Marginify. So there we go. Now we have an e-commerce business. Just to recap, we found a problem to solve, chose a business model, found a supplier, designed a brand, tested the product, and prepared our marketing assets, created our store, ordered our product, and did our pricing. So those are the 8 steps that I've taken to set up my e-commerce business, and it is live and ready to go. So in next week's video, we'll be going on sale. So we'll make sure that we've got all the assets, get our store all completely set up, go on sale, and then we'll see what happens. So Be sure to subscribe and tune in next week to see what happens with this business. If you found value in this business and want to see more content like this, please consider liking, sharing, and subscribing. I'm excited to see how HugBub is going to do. I hope you are too. And remember, making dollars makes sense. So see you in the next one. Peace out.